The interpretation of dreams, the stage of the subconscious, and the code of humanity. Introduction. Dreams, the hidden secrets within you. Have you ever woken up in the morning with a bizarre or vivid dream lingering in your mind, unsure of its origins? Sigmund Freud's The Interpretation of Dreams is hailed as a classic that transformed human thought. It not only unveils the psychological mechanisms of dreams, but also acts like a spotlight, illuminating the hidden corners of the subconscious. Today, let's dive into this monumental work of psychology to explore how dreams become a key to understanding the self and humanity. Chapter 1. The Dawn of Dream Science. Freud's era in late 19th century Vienna. Science and art intertwined. Rationality clashed with mystery. Sigmund Freud, a neurologist, stood at the heart of this cultural turbulence. Frustrated by the limitations of traditional medicine, he saw patients tormented by unspoken inner pain, prompting him to explore the psychological realm. Published in 1899, The Interpretation of Dreams marked the birth of psychoanalysis. Freud proposed that dreams are not meaningless illusions, but expressions of the subconscious, a royal road to the unconscious. At the time, the scientific community viewed dreams as mere physiological processes, like the brain organizing information during sleep. Freud boldly hypothesized that dreams reflect psychological needs, carrying repressed desires and conflicts. In his autobiography, he wrote, "I had to find a way to let patients tell the stories they couldn't voice." This shift from medicine to psychology laid the foundation for the interpretation of dreams. Vienna's cultural atmosphere, from the symbolism of opera to philosophical debates in coffeehouses, inspired Freud to view dreams as narratives awaiting decoding. Freud's work was not conducted in isolation. He drew inspiration from predecessors like Jean-Martin Charcot's hypnosis studies and Joseph Breuer's talk therapy. Charcot's hypnosis revealed subconscious conflicts in hysteria patients, while Breuer's NO case showed Freud that verbal expression could alleviate psychological symptoms. These insights led Freud to see dreams as a window into the subconscious, aiming to systematically unravel their mechanisms. Vienna's literary tradition, including Franz Kafka's absurd novels and Arthur Schnitzler's psychological dramas, also shaped Freud's approach, viewing dreams as a psychological theater filled with symbols and metaphors. Freud's psychological theater concept was deeply rooted in Vienna's cultural soil of the late 19th century. Vienna was not only a scientific hub, but also a fertile ground for literature and theater. In Kafka's Metamorphosis, the protagonist wakes up as a beetle in an absurd scenario, resonating with the surreal nature of dreams and inspiring Freud to see dreams as narrative structures carrying irrational psychological conflicts. Schnitzler's play Dream Story explored desires and moral struggles through inner monologues, aligning with Freud's exploration of the subconscious. This literary atmosphere led Freud to treat dreams as texts to be decoded like novels for their deeper meanings. Freud was also influenced by philosophy. Arthur Schopenhauer's philosophy of will, which viewed human behavior as driven by irrational impulses, echoed Freud's concept of the id. Friedrich Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra suggested that dreams are the whispers of wisdom, hinting at insights beyond waking consciousness. Freud integrated these philosophical ideas into psychology, proposing that dreams are not just physiological, but psychological reflections of deeper truths. Vienna's medical tradition provided Freud with practical grounding. While studying neurology at Vienna General Hospital, he observed hysteria patients with unexplained symptoms like hallucinations or paralysis. These symptoms resembled the illogical nature of dreams, leading him to hypothesize that dreams and hysteria might share subconscious roots. He wrote in the book, "Dreams and neurotic symptoms are two manifestations of the same psychological mechanism." This insight brought dream research from mysticism into the realm of science, forming a solid foundation for the interpretation of dreams. Chapter 2. The Nature of Dreams. The Stage of the Subconscious. Freud believed dreams are dramas of the subconscious, divided into manifest and latent content. The manifest content is the imagery we remember, often absurd and fragmented. The latent content is the hidden meaning uncovered through analysis. He wrote in the book, "Dreams are the fulfillment of wishes." The seemingly simple statement revolutionized how people understood dreams. The manifest content is like a performance on stage, while the latent content is the script behind the curtain, embodying the dreamer's inner conflicts. Take Freud's own Irma's injection dream as an example. He dreamt of examining a patient, Irma, and discovering her illness was caused by a colleague's faulty injection. Through analysis, he realized the dream reflected his anxiety about his own medical errors and subconscious hostility toward a rival colleague. The dream used symbols the injection and disguises blaming others to mask his inner guilt. Freud proposed that dreams transform subconscious content into cryptic images through mechanisms like condensation, displacement, and symbolism to protect the dreamer's peace of mind during sleep. For instance, Elena, a 30-year-old piano teacher, dreamt of being lost in a forest surrounded by towering trees. She woke up feeling uneasy. Through analysis, she discovered the forest symbolized her confusion about her career path, and the trees represented oppressive authority figures. This dream transformed her real-life anxieties into a metaphorical scene, revealing the subconscious's expressive power. Freud emphasized that dreams are not random, but carefully woven stories by the subconscious to balance inner conflicts. Dream formation involves dream work mechanisms. Condensation compresses multiple wishes into a single image, like Elena's forest representing both career and family pressures. Displacement transfers emotions to unrelated objects, such as blaming a colleague instead of oneself. Symbolism uses metaphors to express taboos, like water symbolizing emotional turbulence. The dream work mechanisms are the core innovation of Freud's theory, likened to a cipher machine that transforms complex psychological content into obscure dream imagery. In addition to condensation, displacement, and symbolism, Freud introduced secondary elaboration, where dreamers unconsciously refine dream content upon recall to make it more logical. For example, Sophia, a 32-year-old advertising planner, dreamt of swimming in a river with her mother standing on the shore. Initially, she described the river as calm, but later admitted it had rapids, reflecting her resistance to her mother's expectations. Secondary elaboration makes dreams appear more coherent, but conceals subconscious conflicts. Freud also distinguished between a dream's content and motive. The content is the manifest imagery, like Sophia's river. The motive is the latent drive, such as complex emotions about her mother. He argued that dream work mechanisms follow a principle of psychological economy, expressing maximum content with minimal mental resources. For instance, condensation compresses multiple emotions into a single image, reducing the brain's processing load, much like a poem's metaphor encapsulates complex emotional tension. Dream work also serves to protect sleep. Freud suggested that dreams disguise wishes to prevent subconscious conflicts from disrupting sleep. For example, dreaming of failing an exam might mask fear of authority, resolving anxiety through absurd scenarios. This protective mechanism makes dreams a regulator of mental health, not just chaotic imagery. These mechanisms render dreams both cryptic and meaningful. Freud further distinguished between types of wish fulfillment. Overt wishes like a child dreaming of a toy are simple and direct, while covert wishes like an adult dreaming of success are complex and repressed, requiring deeper analysis. Chapter 3: The Code of the Subconscious, Desires and Repression. The subconscious is the core concept of the interpretation of dreams. Freud believed the subconscious stores repressed desires, childhood memories, and societal taboos, suppressed by censorship in waking life, but finding expression in dreams. He divided the psyche into id, ego, and superego. The id pursues primal desires, the superego enforces moral constraints, and the ego mediates between them. Dreams are a battleground for the id and superego, with the manifest content as their compromise. Take Carl Jung's dream as an example. As Freud's disciple, Jung dreamt of discovering a hidden basement filled with ancient relics in an old castle. Freud's analysis revealed the dream reflected Jung's repressed childhood curiosity and desire to explore the unknown. The basement symbolized the depths of the subconscious, and the relics represented forgotten memories. This dream not only revealed Jung's inner conflicts, but also foreshadowed his later split with Freud, as Jung emphasized the collective unconscious while Freud focused on individual desires. Repression stems from social norms and personal experiences. In Victorian-era Europe, moral constraints made sexuality a taboo, leading many dreams to express sexual impulses cryptically. Freud analyzed a young woman's dream of losing her handbag at a banquet, revealing the handbag symbolized her feminine identity, and the loss reflected her resistance to marital pressures. Repression extends beyond sexuality to fears of failure, competition, or death. In Chinese culture, dream repression takes unique forms. The traditional Duke of Zhou's dream interpretation views dreams like snakes as omens of wealth or danger, possibly reflecting fear or anticipation of the unknown. Freud's approach, however, emphasizes personalized meanings tied to the dreamer's life context, not fixed symbols. Traditional Chinese dream interpretation contrasts sharply with Freud's individualized analysis. Duke of Zhou's dream interpretation sees dreams as omens, like fish symbolizing prosperity or losing teeth foretelling a loved one's death. This symbolic approach stems from ancient cosmological beliefs, viewing dreams as a medium of cosmic connection. Freud, however, argued that dream meanings are not fixed, but tied to the dreamer's personal experiences. For example, dreaming of fish might symbolize livelihood for a fisherman, wealth for a merchant, or academic pressure for a student. This difference reflects how culture shapes subconscious expression. In Chinese culture, family and societal duties often repress individual desires, leading to collective symbols and dreams. For instance, dreaming of ancestors might reflect anxiety about familial obligations rather than personal wishes. Freud's method requires delving into the dreamer's life context. For example, Mr. Lin, a 45-year-old teacher, dreamt of being scolded by his grandfather in an old house. Analysis revealed the dream reflected his concerns about job security and guilt over failing to meet family expectations. The old house symbolized the past, and the grandfather embodied the superego's moral constraints. Freud noted that the intensity of repression varies by culture. In Victorian Europe, sexual repression was a primary taboo, leading dreams to feature sexual symbols. In China's Confucian culture, filial piety and collectivism often drive repression. For example, dreaming of a broken bridge might reflect anxiety about family relationships, not Freud's sexual metaphors. Though rooted in the West, Freud's method is universal, as the conflict between desires and norms is a shared human psychological mechanism. Freud's repression theory also extends to childhood trauma analysis. He believed childhood experiences are the blueprint of the subconscious, recurring in dreams. For instance, Caroline, a 38-year-old lawyer, dreamt of being lost in a dark staircase. Analysis revealed memories of hiding in a staircase during her parents' arguments as a child, projecting her childhood helplessness onto current career pressures. Dreams of snakes, for example, might reflect a desire for power or fear of betrayal, depending on the dreamer's experiences. The complexity of the subconscious also lies in the influence of childhood experiences. Freud argued that childhood traumas or wishes often resurface in adult dreams. For example, Sebastian, a 40-year-old engineer, dreamt of being trapped in a narrow cave, which analysis linked to a childhood memory of being locked in a storage room, reflecting his desire for control. This recollection of childhood memories makes dreams a bridge between past and present. Chapter 4: The Symbolism of Dreams. The Language of Metaphor. Dream symbolism is a core tool in the interpretation of dreams. Freud believed dream imagery often expresses the subconscious through metaphors. For example, dreaming of flying might symbolize a desire for freedom, while losing teeth could reflect loss or anxiety. He listed numerous symbols, like water representing emotions or a house symbolizing the body, but stressed that symbols vary by individual and require context. Take Sebastian's dream as an example. He dreamt of climbing a steep mountain, only to find a desert at the peak. Analysis revealed the mountain symbolized career challenges, and the desert reflected feelings of emptiness after success. This dream externalized his doubts about the meaning of his career through symbolic imagery. Freud argued that symbols are not random, but the subconscious's processing of reality, decoded through free association. Freud particularly emphasized sexual symbolism, suggesting many dreams relate to sexual desires. For instance, he noted that dreaming of keys or locks often relates to sexuality, as in a male patient's dream of opening an ancient door with a key, which reflected his hopes for marriage. This interpretation was controversial in the conservative Victorian era, where sexual topics were sensitive. Modern psychology suggests sexual symbolism should be understood within cultural contexts. For example, in Chinese culture, dreaming of a dragon might relate to power or family expectations, not just sexual implications. Freud acknowledged that the universality of symbols is limited, requiring consideration of the dreamer's culture and personal experiences. The diversity of symbolism also appears in cross-cultural differences. In Western culture, dreaming of a bird might symbolize freedom, while in Chinese culture, it could relate to good fortune or separation. These cultural differences make dream symbolism interpretation more challenging. In the West, a bird's symbolism of freedom aligns with individualistic culture, while in China, birds may connect to poetic imagery, like the Book of Songs, Guanju, evoking love or harmony. Freud recognized that symbolic interpretation must account for cultural context. For instance, he analyzed a British patient's dream of a white dove as a symbol of peace and purity, but in China, it might relate to celebration or reunion. Cultural differences also manifest in collective dream imagery. Freud believed certain symbols, like water for emotions or fire for passion, stem from universal psychological archetypes. These archetypes take on unique meanings across cultures. For example, a Japanese person dreaming of a volcano might express repressed anger, while a Westerner might see it as a symbol of transformation. Freud cited a patient dreaming of a burning forest, interpreted as a desire for passion, but in East Asian culture, it might relate to disaster or rebirth. Symbolic interpretation must also consider the dreamer's profession and social role. For example, Nora, a 27-year-old dancer, dreamt of falling on stage, surrounded by shattered mirrors. Analysis revealed the mirrors symbolized her anxiety about self-image, and the fall reflected her fear of career failure. In Chinese culture, a broken mirror might suggest separation, but for Nora, it was tied to personal achievement. Freud emphasized that symbolic meanings should be uncovered through free association, not cultural templates. He cited a patient dreaming of a galloping horse, interpreted as confidence and personal strength, but in a Chinese context, a horse might symbolize a journey or struggle. Understanding symbols requires flexibility to avoid rigid interpretations. Dream symbolism also connects to collective experiences. Freud believed certain symbols, like water or fire, stem from universal psychological archetypes, akin to Jung's later concept of the collective unconscious. For example, Margaret, a 28-year-old journalist, dreamt of sailing through a storm, with analysis revealing the storm symbolized her anxiety about career competition and water represented emotional turbulence. This blend of universal symbols and personal experiences adds depth to dream analysis. Chapter 5: Dream Analysis, the Art of Free Association. Freud proposed that the key to analyzing dreams is free association. Dreamers must relax and freely express thoughts related to each dream detail to uncover the latent content. For example, he described a female patient dreaming of a tattered hat, which through association revealed her dissatisfaction with marriage. Free association breaks through the manifest content's disguise to reveal the subconscious's true intentions. Take Margaret's case as an example. She dreamt of missing a train at a station. During analysis, she associated it with her father's departure in childhood and her anxiety about career advancement. The train symbolized opportunity, and missing it reflected her fear of failure. Through free association, her dream transformed from a surface scene into a reflection on life choices. Freud emphasized that free association requires a pressure-free environment, with the analyst avoiding guidance and simply listening and recording. The challenge of free association lies in the interference of censorship mechanisms. Freud believed the superego suppresses sensitive content in waking life, causing hesitation or avoidance during association. For example, Julia, a 33-year-old doctor, dreamt of losing a scalpel in an operating room. Initially, she linked it to work stress, but further analysis revealed the scalpel symbolized her self-doubt about professional authority. This repression stemmed from her fear of failure, with the superego masking this emotion during association. Freud suggested overcoming censorship requires a safe environment. In therapy, he encouraged patients to relax and express any thought, no matter how absurd. For instance, he guided a patient from a dream of an apple tree to a childhood memory of stealing fruit, uncovering repressed moral guilt. This method requires analysts to remain neutral and non-judgmental to lower the dreamer's psychological defenses. Free association also involves layered peeling. Freud suggested starting with prominent dream elements and gradually delving deeper. For example, Julia's operating room dream began with the scalpel, moved to the hospital setting, then to childhood scenes of being scolded, ultimately revealing her complex feelings about authority. This layered approach resembles detective work, gradually approaching the subconscious's core. Free association can also be paired with other methods, like dream journals. Freud recommended that patients record dreams daily, noting emotions and associations to accumulate clues. For instance, a patient found through journaling that dreams of running often coincided with work deadlines, revealing the subconscious impact of time pressure. This method makes free association more systematic and accessible to non-professionals. For example, Carl, a 45-year-old businessman, dreamt of drifting at sea in a damaged boat. Initially, he linked it to work stress, but with analyst guidance, he recalled his father's bankruptcy in childhood, revealing the dream's deeper concern about financial risk. Freud wrote in the book, "The analyst's task is not to provide answers, but to guide the dreamer to discover their own truth." Free association is not limited to professional therapy. Anyone can use it by recording dreams and associating freely to uncover inner needs. For example, after documenting her forest dream, Elena linked it to her childhood fear of teachers, revealing the dream reflected her complex feelings about authority. This self-analysis method makes the interpretation of dreams a practical tool for everyday readers. Freud also noted the reworking phenomenon, where dreamers unconsciously alter dream content upon recall. For instance, a patient dreamt of watching a play in a theater, initially describing it as a comedy, but later admitting it was a tragedy, reflecting her avoidance of life's pressures. This phenomenon reminds analysts to focus on narrative details to uncover hidden psychological defenses. Chapter 6: The Application of Dreams, From Therapy to Self-Understanding. The interpretation of dreams is not just a theoretical work, but has practical value. Freud used dream analysis to treat neurotic patients, helping them confront subconscious conflicts. For example, he treated a patient with anxiety-induced insomnia by analyzing a dream of being trapped in a narrow room, uncovering their repression of family responsibilities, which guided lifestyle adjustments. Dream analysis became a core tool in psychoanalytic therapy, helping patients release repressed emotions. Dream analysis also aids self-understanding. Freud believed anyone could record dreams and use free association to uncover inner needs. For example, Carl, after analyzing his dream of drifting at sea, recognized his concerns about financial risk, prompting him to adjust his investment strategies to reduce risk-taking. This method allows ordinary people to gain insights from dreams to improve life decisions. In non-therapeutic settings, dream analysis can clarify interpersonal relationships. For instance, Isabel, a 35-year-old designer, dreamt of arguing with a colleague in a maze. Analysis revealed the maze symbolized a complex work environment, and the argument reflected her frustration with teamwork. Through the dream, she learned to communicate more proactively, improving workplace relationships. Freud noted in the book that dreams reflect not only personal psychology, but also the dynamics of social relationships. In Chinese culture, dream self-analysis can integrate traditional wisdom. For example, dreaming of ancestors might reflect thoughts on family duties, and combining free association can uncover deeper emotions. This blend of traditional wisdom and Freud's method offers a rich perspective on dream analysis. In Chinese culture, dreaming of ancestors may not only reflect family responsibilities, but also relate to ancestral worship traditions, suggesting thoughts on heritage. For example, Miss Chen, a 40-year-old entrepreneur, dreamt of her late grandmother weaving in an old house. Analysis linked it to her grandmother's diligent character and her own anxiety about balancing career and family. The dream, through the grandmother's image, expressed her identification with traditional values and conflicts with modern pressures. This integration also applies to career planning. For instance, dreaming of turbulent waters might suggest change in Chinese culture, but in Freud's framework, it could reflect fear of career transitions. Through free association, dreamers can pinpoint specific emotional roots, like uncertainty about a new job. Freud's method emphasizes individualized interpretation, adding psychological depth to traditional dream analysis. Dream analysis also applies to education. For example, a student dreaming of failing an exam may reflect not only academic pressure, but also doubts about self-worth. Teachers can guide students to explore dream emotions through free association, helping adjust their study mindset. This application extends the theory of the interpretation of dreams to everyday life, giving it broader practical significance. For instance, a young person dreaming of a deceased grandfather linked it to pressure from family expectations, leading to open communication with family to ease psychological burdens. This cross-cultural application highlights the universality of the interpretation of dreams. Dream analysis also inspired artistic creation. Freud's influence extended to literature and film, with surrealist painter Salvador Dali drawing on dreams for works like The Persistence of Memory, transforming subconscious distortions into art. The interpretation of dreams provided creators with the tool to explore the inner world, sparking a 20th century artistic revolution. Chapter 7: The Limitations and Controversies of Dreams. Freud's legacy. Though the interpretation of dreams pioneered psychoanalysis, its theories sparked controversy. Freud's emphasis on sexual symbolism was criticized as overinterpretation. For example, he interpreted a patient's dream of climbing stairs as a sexual desire, but modern psychology might see it as effort or stress. Critics argued Freud's theories were overly subjective, lacking empirical support, especially the arbitrary nature of free association leading to overinterpretation. The rift between Jung and Freud also highlighted theoretical limitations. Jung believed dreams reflect not only personal subconscious, but also collective unconscious archetypes, like mythological imagery. He criticized Freud's focus on sexuality, overlooking universal cultural symbols. For example, Jung interpreted a patient's dream of a flood as a collective disaster symbol, not Freud's personal repression. This divergence advanced psychology, making dream analysis more diverse. Modern neuroscience also challenges Freud's views. Research suggests dreams may relate to memory consolidation, not just wish fulfillment. Brain waves during REM sleep show the brain organizing information and reinforcing learning. These findings complement Freud's theories, but don't negate their psychological insights. Freud's legacy lies in his insistence on personalized dream interpretation. He argued that dream meanings vary by individual, not fitting universal templates. This view influenced modern psychotherapy, emphasizing listening and empathy. For example, cognitive behavioral therapy, though not directly using dream analysis, adopts its focus on individual experience. In China, dream analysis faces cultural challenges. Traditional dream interpretation emphasizes omens, like fish symbolizing good fortune, while Freud's method focuses on psychological motives. This difference underscores the need to consider cultural context to avoid rigid applications. For instance, a Chinese student dreaming of failing an exam may reflect not only academic stress, but also family expectations. Epilogue: the revelation of dreams, a bridge to the inner self. The interpretation of dreams shows us that dreams are not just nighttime illusions, but the language of the subconscious. They reveal the complexity of the human psyche, from desires to fears, from childhood to reality. Freud wrote, "Dreams are the guardians of the mind and its betrayers." By analyzing dreams, we not only understand ourselves, but also approach others with greater compassion. Dreams' meanings vary by individual, yet are universally present. Whether you're an ordinary person puzzled by dreams or a seeker of inner answers, the interpretation of dreams offers a key. Try recording your next dream and practicing free association. You might find it quietly telling your story. Dreams are like a mirror, reflecting our desires and fears, reminding us that true growth begins with facing the inner self.